Welcome to another Monday night podcast. Haven't seen you in a couple of weeks, so it's nice to have. I'm going to be reviewing some stuff that you've learned already about commas, and I'm going to be pre-teaching you other rules that we're going to be learning about commas. So just to review, the purpose of commas is they are used to indicate a pause or a change in thoughts. So hello, pause, I am a comma. Not really, but it's just a little bit of a joke to make the moment a little bit lighter. Okay, so let's continue. So last week, or it's actually really 2 weeks ago, we learned the first rule, which is that we use commas when we're talking about items in a series. So we put commas between words, but remember it has to be at least 3 or more. If there's only 2, then there is no comma. So the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria were the different ships that sailed across the Atlantic Ocean. Here's a trivia question. Who was the person that led the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria? So on a Post-it, instead of putting a star or a circle, you need to write the name of the person that was in charge of the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria. If you don't know, you can ask a parent or Google it. This is what needs to go on a Post-it. Who was the person in charge of the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria? Okay, to continue on, we also have commas between phrases. Before I go to school each morning, I need to brush my teeth, comma, get dressed, comma, and eat breakfast. There are 3 things I need to get done in the morning. Therefore, I put a comma. Had I just written, before I go to school each morning, I need to brush my teeth, get dressed, really, I would not put a comma. I would just put an and between brush my teeth and get dressed. The rule that is going to be coming up that we need to learn about is keeping numbers clear. Many of you guys, I'm sure, have learned this in your math class. I have 3,756,432 things to do today. Well, not really, just an exaggeration. The way I know where to put my commas is that I need to count backwards by 3. So I start to the right and I go 1, 2, 3. I get to the 4, between the 6 and the 4, comma. I'm going to count again. 1, 2, 3, get between the 3 and the 7, and I put a comma. So we go from the right to the left. It's a little bit kind of like think of Hebrew, and we count by 3. The next rule that we're going to spend a lot of time in, and I'm going to just kind of like introduce it, get it, introducing the introductory clause, is that we put a comma to separate the introductory clause and the rest of the sentence. What does introductory clause mean? It kind of like introduces the sentence. A clause meaning a small statement that introduces the rest of the sentence. So when the web is finished, the spider has a place to live. So when the web is finished, it cannot stand alone. When the web is finished is not a complete sentence because you ask the question, what happens when the web is finished? When the web is finished, what happens? The spider has a place to live. So the introductory phrase almost like kind of introduces the second half of the sentence. When you look at the second half of the sentence, you're able to see what the introductory clause was answering. Let's look at the second example. Before players begin to play drills, what happens before players begin to play drills? They need to warm up properly. So they need to warm up properly is answering the questions of before players begin to play drills. So in order to separate between the introductory part and the rest of the sentence, we put a comma. So just to review, the introductory clause is not a complete sentence. It introduces the sentence, and the answer to the introductory clause is answered in the second half of the sentence. There are some trigger words that kind of let you know that you're introducing introductory clause. It's not always like that, but the main triggers for like an introductory clause are after, although, also, when, while, because, before, if, since, so. Now, I know many of you guys have learned that because, you're never allowed to start a sentence with because. However, if you start a sentence with because as part of the introduction to your sentence, as part of your introductory clause, then it's okay. And we're going to be learning a lot of, we're going to be reviewing ways of kind of doing this introductory clause in the rest of the sentence. One of the reasons why I like to teach this is because it really helps make your writing a lot more sophisticated. So just to review this rule, but we're going to be learning a lot about it more when we do commas this week. We introduce the sentence. It's not a complete part of it. It's not a complete sentence. We put a comma, and then the second half almost answers the first part of the sentence. What is homework tonight? Besides the Post-it that I told you about at the beginning of the lesson, you're going to be doing right source pages 13 and 14. Okay? Right source pages 13 and 14. Have a great night. And this is Mrs. Kurtz signing off.